Welcome back to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning.
And welcome into Cody Talks NFL. How are you guys doing today? Hope you enjoyed probably one of the longest weeks of football in quite some time, with the constant postponement of that Ravens and Steelers game. But we did get to see all the Week 12 games get in, which is kudos to the NFL. They're still trying to push through this crazy year that we're going through and get to the playoffs. I'm gonna go ahead and get into today's episode. This week, I guess, will be slightly different for people. For the longtime listeners of Cody Talks NFL, normally I, recap the Thursday night game, give out the Blitzalytics prospect encyclopedia player of Thursday night football. But the Ravens were slated to play the Cowboys last night because of all those schedule shifts. The Ravens and the Cowboys are now playing on Tuesday night, so there is no Thursday night game. So there's going to be no recap. I'm basically just going to dive right into the 1 p.m. previews, the 4 p.m. previews on Sunday. Sunday night football, there's 2 Monday night games I'll run over, and then that Tuesday night matchup I just mentioned. This is the last week of buys, so there are 2 teams that are currently on a bye week. That is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers, and none of those teams have any relative news that I could find when I did my research last night. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into these 1 p.m. matchups. First game I'm getting into is a big one. This is definitely has playoff implications, whether it's on both teams. We got the Cleveland Browns traveling to the Tennessee Titans. Both of them have an 8-3 record. Titans sitting on top of the AFC South. Browns more than likely are going to, finish second in the AFC North. They would have to really have the Pittsburgh Steelers fall apart. But the Titans are still battling for the AFC South crown. So they lose this tiebreaker against the Browns. That could maybe hurt their chances at a wild card if the Colts were to win the division. A lot of stuff to be played out over the coming weeks. But let's go ahead and get into this matchup. As far as the Browns injury report, we got Denzel Ward that hasn't practiced with a calf injury. These following players have been limited for Cleveland this week: Jack Conklin with a knee, Jordan Elliott with a knee, Nick Harris with an ankle, Kareem Hunt with a thigh, Vincent Taylor with a knee, Vincent Taylor, yeah. I thought I mixed their names up there for a second. Wyatt Teller for a calf, J.C. Treader with a knee, and then Kadero Hodge with a hamstring. And then I'm going to run over the Tennessee Titans injury report. They got a number of guys that haven't practiced this week. Adoree Jackson with a knee, Roger Saffold with an ankle, Jonnu Smith with a knee, Dennis Kelly with a knee, A.J. Brown with a hip, Harold Landry with an illness, Isaiah Wilson with an illness, and then these 2 players have been limited for Tennessee. Jeffrey Simmons with a knee, and Kari Blasingame with a shoulder. Starting with Tennessee's side of the ball, they're playing bully ball right now. We saw it last week against the Colts. They're in the last 2 weeks, actually, going back to that Ravens game. They're getting Derrick Henry going. That's what they've done basically the last 3 years. The offense flows through him. And then when the offense is flowing through him like it was last week, that opens up lanes and passing lanes for A.J. Brown. You could say those 2 players fit each other perfectly on that offense. So I don't see that really changing. They're going to try that approach this week, especially against the Browns. Browns are relatively solid against the run. Now, they are getting Myles Garrett back this week, so that's going to be a huge boost. And I think that's where we're going to potentially see this matchup won, because with Taylor Lewan, he's been on IR for multiple weeks now. His season's done. So what's going on with Dennis Kelly? He hasn't practiced this week, so we'll see if he's going to be good to go. Isaiah Wilson hasn't practiced with an illness. So what's their tackle situation going to look like for Tennessee? And if they don't have anybody that's up to par to block Myles Garrett, with him taking the last 2 weeks off, now, well, not off, he had to deal with he did test positive. So let's hope he's, healthy. But assuming he's going to be the Myles Garrett that we've seen, he should be able to tear up that offensive line and chase down Ryan Tannehill multiple times in the game. So if Ryan Tannehill can protect the ball, that's going to be huge as well. And I the way I see this is, I think Tennessee, they're going to have their drives where they get going with Tannehill, A.J. Brown, Corey Davis. And then we're going to see a healthy dose of Derrick Henry. And I think also, though, this Browns defense is more than capable of making this offense stall. But I do think Ryan Tannehill is going to lead this team to scoring. At least they should be able to find the end zone 2 to 3 times on the day. And then you switch sides of the ball. The Browns, they are just a monster at the running game with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt right now. And now that they got Wyatt Teller back and J.C. Treader, I mean, they're a little bit banged up heading into this matchup, but the way they can run the ball is perfect for this time of the year, especially when who knows what this Cleveland weather is going to be like on Sunday. Tennessee's defense, they're not that great, to be honest. And, Jeffrey Simmons is limited this week, and Harold Landry's not practicing with an illness. Adoree Jackson hasn't practiced with his knee injury. So I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for this Cleveland offense to move the ball. I think they should be able to run the ball with a healthy dose of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. And as long as Baker Mayfield can be efficient and he can get the ball to Jarvis Landry, Gadaro Hodge, Hollywood Higgins, his tight ends, they're going to be able to move the ball up and down the field. But I do think, Titans, they have enough to make them stall, but I don't think they're that great right now as a unit. So I think Cleveland's going to be able to put up also 2 to 3 touchdowns. I think this is going to be a close game. I do think this is going to be one of those type of games on who can win the turnover battle, who can force the most turnovers. Now, I will say this. I do think this comes down to also who has the ball last. Man, it's a coin flip type of matchup for me this week between Cleveland and Tennessee. I'm gonna go with the Browns. They're the home team. I think they're going to be able to run the rock and control the ball. And if they can get Myles Garrett to come off that edge and force a couple strip sack fumbles, and they recover those fumbles, I think that could be the difference in the game. Cleveland wins like a 27-24 type of win on Sunday. Next matchup, we do got the Raiders traveling out to New York to face the Jets. As far as a little news note, it's kind of news/injury note. Trent Brown, their tackle, he has been activated off the list, but he is unlikely to play this week. Going down on the Raiders report, they're a little bit banged up right now. These following 4 players haven't practiced this week. Jonathan Abram with a knee, Nelson Aguilar with an ankle, Malik Collins with a hamstring and ankle, Josh Jacobs with an ankle, and then these number of players have been limited for Vegas. Damon Arnett with a concussion and neck, Denzel Good with an ankle, Maurice Hurst with an ankle and calf, Nick Kwiatkowski with an ankle, Sam Young with a knee, and Isaiah Johnson with a groin. On New York side, Blake Cashman hasn't practiced this week with a hamstring injury. And then these 3 players have been limited. George Fant with a knee and ankle, Pat Elflein with a shoulder, and Brashad Perryman with a shoulder. I feel like I say this every week about our Jets matchup, but this should be pretty quick. Starting with the Jets offense, they showed no promise, even with Sam Darnold getting into the lineup last week. Sure, Denzel Mims is looking good. Brashad Perryman played well with him. But I don't really see them lighting up the Raiders defense. I think the Raiders defense has enough to kind of get things right against this Jets defense. I'm sure Max Crosby could have a potential day, depending on if they line him up against Mekhi Becton or not. As long as they can get that pressure on Sam Darnold and force him into those early decisions, that can lead into those turnovers. And I'll say this, Trayvon Mullen, their cornerback, over the last couple of weeks, anytime I've got my eyes on him, I thought he's been playing a really great ball. So I think he should be able to shut down Perryman and Mims anytime he lines up across them. It'll be a good matchup to watch. And the Jets offense just doesn't have anything for me to believe in. It's definitely one of those units I'm saying, like, I can't really talk up you unless I see it from you first. So there's just no promise coming from New York underneath Adam Gase. Now, reverse sides of the ball, what happened to the Raiders offense last week? They completely didn't look like themselves that we have seen in previous weeks, especially when they were going against the Chiefs the previous week. It almost beat them, and then they came out and laid an egg against the Falcons last week. Again, too, let me go ahead and point this out. This is a 1 p.m. start time for a West Coast team. The Raiders played Atlanta last week at that 1 p.m. West Coast time. So maybe that had an effect on their play last week, but and maybe that kind of leans into this week, but it's New York. You can at least start off slow and then you get hot at some point. So I think this Raiders offense should be able to get back on track. I think Derek Carr should be able to be more efficient on Sunday as long as he does protect the ball, not fumble it too much. But yeah, they should be able to move the ball. Josh Jacobs hasn't practiced this week. There was a report that he should play this week, so let's check out the practice report today. But assuming he goes, but even if he doesn't go, I think Devontae Booker and Jalen Richard can get the ball moving on the ground, and then that will allow Derek Carr to pick him apart through the air with like a Henry Ruggs. We'll see if Aguilar can't go, but if he can't, they still got like Brian Edwards and Hunter Renfrow. They should be able to put up 3+ touchdowns on the Jets. I think they should be able to win by 10+ points, even with that 1 p.m. start time. I think the Raiders should be able to win like a 28-14 type of win on Sunday. I'm going to go ahead and get into this next matchup. We do got Jacksonville traveling up to Minnesota to face the Vikings. On the Jaguars side, these 4 players haven't practiced. Dakota Allen with a hamstring, Kamalea Correa with a hamstring, Ben Ellefson with a knee, Devon Hamilton with a knee, and then these number of players have been limited for Jacksonville. DJ Chark with ribs, Chris Conley with a hip, Sidney Jones with an Achilles, Jawan Taylor with a knee, and Gerard Wilson with a shoulder. And on the Vikings side, these 2 players haven't practiced. DJ Wonum with an ankle and back, Irv Smith Jr. with a back injury, and these 3 players have been limited. Ezra Cleveland with an ankle, Dalvin Cook with an ankle, and Eric Kendricks with a calf. Starting with the Viking side of the ball, Kirk Cousins in that passing game has really opened things up over this past month, and they're really getting things flowing. I'm sure they're going to start leaning back towards Dalvin Cook and kind of have coming to the middle on that offense at some point, just because that's how Mike Zimmer wants his offense ran, is more run heavy, which is good for Kirk Cousins because when there's a healthy balance of the running attack, that is being productive. That opens up things for him to come off play action and be efficient with his targets. They're going to get Adam Thielen back. He was activated off the list this week. So they have a healthy dose of their weapons between Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, and Kyle Rudolph. Even if Irv Smith can't go, Kyle Rudolph had a good week last week. And this Jaguars defense, it's not great at all. They're down to basically practice squad guys at the cornerback position. So I think Kirk Cousins is going to be able to pick them apart when he needs to. And I think this is going to be one of those Dalvin Cook type of performances where he could go off and get you a $150 in total scrimmage yards and a couple touchdowns. I think the Vikings offense should be able to move the ball pretty easily against Jacksonville. Now, on the opposite side of the ball, Vikings, their defense is still working through things. DJ Wonum has came along the last couple of weeks as an edge rusher, but he's on the injury report, so their defensive front continues to get banged up. So maybe there's an opportunity for the Jacksonville Jaguars to move the ball with James Robinson on the ground, and maybe that's what they can try to do, is just play that clock control type of game and be efficient and score those touchdowns. But that's going to be on Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon, he was all right, I guess, last week, but we'll see if he can get DJ Chark back involved. Maybe that can help open up and spread the ball throughout the air. But I kind of think they're sitting on a lame duck coach right now with Doug Marrone. They did fire their GM this past weekend. They did say, I believe the owner said Doug Marrone will finish the season off as the head coach, and then they'll go from there. To me, they should have let go of him last year. Again, I've been on these rants before. Don't hold on to these GMs and coaches for an extra year just because. So I just don't know how this team's going to perform going forward. I mean, their season's already lost. They just fired their GM, and I think the writing's on the wall for that coaching staff. So, but at the end of the day, these are grown men. They're going to want to fight for their future jobs. So maybe the Jacksonville offense can put up an effort and move the ball against this defense, but I still think the Vikings offense at the end of the day is just going to have their way with them. So I think the Vikings, they should be able to win by 10+ points. They should be able to win like a I don't know, like a 20. Nah, they should be able to score more than that. Like a 28-10 type of win for the Vikings. I'm gonna move into this next matchup. We do got the Bengals traveling out to Miami to face the Dolphins, and there's no news on either team. Let's just go ahead and dive into the injury report for Cincinnati. These number of players haven't practiced. Tony Brown with a hamstring, Clark Harris with an illness, Alex Redmond with a concussion, Brandon Wilson with a hamstring, Christian Covington with an illness, and then these three players have been limited. Mike Thomas with a hamstring, Xavier Williams with a back, and BJ Finney with a back. And then on the Dolphins side, DeAndre Washington hasn't practiced this week with a hamstring injury. And then these number of players have been limited for Miami. Salvin Ahmed with a shoulder, Solomon Kinley with a foot, Malcolm Perry with a chest, and then Tua Tagovailoa with a thumb. So we'll just have to see if Tua is going to play. But they got the right matchup if they want to rest Tua at least one more week and let Ryan Fitzpatrick get the start. Miami's offense, man, they're so limited, but they come up with ways to be able to move the ball. Assuming, let's just say it's Fitzpatrick in there, I think he should be able to pick apart the Cincinnati defense. Devontae Parker should be able to have a good day, as well as Mike Gesicki. But I just wonder where they're going to get the running attack from right now. DeAndre Washington hasn't practiced this week. Salvin Ahmed has been limited, but he's yet to return to the lineup. They have yet to activate Myles Gaskin off the IR. He's supposed to be coming back at some point here shortly. Maybe this week. Maybe we see him get activated by tomorrow. And then other than that, they really just have Matt Breida. But they are going against the Bengals. The Bengals kind of struggle to stop the run. So if there's ever been a game for you to be super banged up on offense and try to work your way through a game, this might be the game for Miami. So I do think they should be able to move the ball. Maybe they have their moments where they stall just because of their lack of dependable targets on the offense, or dependable weapons on the offense. But I think they should be able to get at least 2 to 3 touchdowns on the day. And then you just reverse sides of the ball. That's where the difference in this game is going to come down to. Now that Joe Burrow's, he's been done for the season. We got to see what Brandon Allen is last week, and it's not that much. So this Miami defense has been playing outstanding over the past month. So I think that's going to continue. They're going to get after at Brandon Allen. They're going to harass him all day. They're going to get sacks, and that's going to lead to potential turnovers. And they've been pretty good at converting those turnovers into touchdowns. So I think that's what's going to win them the game, is that Miami defense against the lack of an attack from that Cincinnati offense. I think Miami should be able to. Man, as of right now, the games I went into, besides that first game, seems like we have a potential for a lot of blowouts this week. I think Miami should be able to handle business and win by 10 plus points. They should be able to win like a 28-17 type of win for Miami. Now let's go ahead and get into this next matchup. We got the Colts traveling to Houston to face the Texans. There are definitely some news notes on both teams. Prayers to this guy, the punter for the Colts, Rigoberto Sanchez. He had surgery this week for a cancerous tumor. The team has signed Ryan Allen. Now, his season is not technically done. There is hope that Sanchez can come back at some point. Maybe it's in the playoffs, but kudos to him to getting the surgery and him trying to, push back and play this season. Because, I mean, anytime you hear, cancer, you think that's like not only just a season ender, but a career ender. So glad they were able to catch that in time and get that all out of his body. Another news, though, for the Colts. Colts are getting plenty of help this week that they were missing against Tennessee. Jonathan Taylor, Danico Autry, and DeForest Buckner this week all have been activated off the list. They are good to go for Sunday. So obviously Jonathan Taylor is going to be a big boost for their offense. But I think the biggest thing is Danico Autry, DeForest Buckner. Those two not playing on that defensive front last week is what opened up things for Derrick Henry. So having those two back on the defensive line should be able to get that unit back in place. On the Texans front, they kind of got caught in a little PED use. And it's two big players on the opposite sides of the ball. Will Fuller and Ronald Darby both have been suspended for 6 games due to PED use. So that's the final 5 games. And then Will Fuller's technically a free agent. Watson says he wants him back, but we'll see where he goes. But he will have to miss his first game next year. And if anybody was curious, yes, Brian Cushing, former Texans linebacker that always got caught taking PEDs, he is their strength and conditioning coach. Maybe I'm making a connection there, just maybe. So let's go ahead and get into this matchup. Let's look at the injury report. Colts maybe are going to be missing some key pieces this week. And these 4 players haven't practiced. Anthony Costanzo with a knee, Chaz Green with a back, Bobby Okereke with an ankle, and Kari Willis with a quad and a back injury. And these number of players have been limited. Phillip Rivers with a toe, Kamiko Toure with an ankle, and Danico Autry with an illness. And then let's take a look at the Texans report. These 3 players haven't practiced. CJ Prosise with an illness, Ross Blacklock with an illness, Cullen Gillespie with a back, Brian Anger with a quad has been limited, as well as Lonnie Johnson Jr. with a knee. He has been limited. Starting with the Texans side of the ball, they have been really cooking over this past month with Deshaun Watson. Watson is playing as a top 5 quarterback in this league, if not a top 3 quarterback with the way he is playing. But he is going to be missing Will Fuller. So we're going to have to see how this offense will be able to flow on Sunday. He's missing him. Randall Cobb is out. So basically he only has Brandon Cooks as a proven reliable receiver at this moment. Maybe Kiki Kuti can go back, can show us those flashes again that he did during his rookie year. They got Jordan Akins at the tight end position. Maybe he does something. Maybe they get Duke Johnson more involved. There is a potential David Johnson gets activated off the IR. But, they are going against a defense that not only is probably upset with how they played last week, but they're getting DeForest Buckner and Danico Autry back. So I think that defensive line is going to be able to get after Deshaun Watson, harass him for most of the day. But I do think Deshaun might be able to find some holes in the defense and pick them apart at times, and be able to lead the offense to a couple scoring drives on the day. But I do think this defense is going to come to play and get their hands on Watson, because I think without him having a Fuller out there, I think that's going to throw a wrench into that offense that has been flowing over the past couple months, or a month and a half. And then on the opposite side, their defense, first of all, their defense hasn't been great this year. They struggle to stop the run and the pass. And then their best cornerback, Ronald Darby, he's suspended for 6 games. So they're missing their best cornerback. And the Colts, what their biggest thing, though, will be is how do they make up for the loss of Anthony Costanzo? More than likely, he's not going to play this week. He's dealing with an MCL sprain. So they're going to have to figure out how they want to block on the left side of the line. But now that they have a whole week to prepare for it, I think they can figure that out. And the Texans defense is one of those defenses, one of those perfect timing defenses to face to help work out any type of kinks on the offense. They get Taylor back, so I think we're going to see a healthy dose of Taylor mixed in with Naheem Hines. They're going to get the running game going, and then once they get that running game going, that's going to open up things for the pass. Michael Pittman and my boy T.Y. T.Y. Hilton kind of showed some glimpses of himself last week, and as Rob pointed out on the Fantasy Voyage yesterday, T.Y. Hilton has a very strong history of lighting up Houston, not only of lighting up the Texans, but specifically when they go down to Houston. So I'm kind of hoping we do see, as a Colts fan, a classic T.Y. versus Texans game. But even if T.Y. doesn't get involved and it's the tight ends, I think Phillip Rivers is going to be able to pick apart that defense. I think they're going to be pretty consistent, converting drives into touchdowns on Sunday. It is a divisional game. These teams typically do play each other twice. Play each other tough. I think anytime you got Deshaun Watson leading your offense, you're always going to have an opportunity to be in a game. So I think the Colts are going to have to maybe, I think this seems like it could be like one of those games that it's close for the first 3 quarters, and then the better team in the Colts, they find a way to pull away in the 4th quarter, win by a touchdown. They win like a 31-24 type of win. Give me a little quick. I need to kind of get a little coffee in my throat.
Hey man, I'm telling you, dude. Ty, I feel it in my bones. Oh man, he was on my fantasy team early in the season. I've had to drop him, and I'm going to get him back this week even, dude. I'm telling you, I feel it, man. It just feels like old school TY week is coming.
I hope so. As a Colts fan, definitely hope so. And I just like you had every right to drop him with how he played this year in fantasy, but in that 16 team in league and blitz, I just let him sit on my bench, and now it's like, all right, this could be a time where he could win me something. We'll see. We'll see. Let's see how it plays out on the field on Sunday. Yeah. So let me go ahead and get into this next matchup. We do got Detroit traveling to Chicago. I didn't put it in my rundown just because everybody should know about this by now. But if you don't know, they did fire their GM head coach, Matt Patricia. They have moved on from him. So this could be one of your classic, we just fired our coach, so we're going to go out and win type of games. I called it earlier in the season. Then I think it was the Falcons game. I said, nah, that's not going to happen. They're going to lose. And then the Falcons won. So do the Lions win this one? I don't know. Let me get into the preview first. What might not help is the Lions might not have a full set of weapons on offense. Kenny Golladay has yet to return to practice with his hip injury. I thought he was practicing for whatever reason when Rob and myself were talking about fantasy football yesterday. Other people that haven't practiced, Deshaun Hand with a groin, Jeff Okudah with a shoulder, DeAndre Swift with an illness. There's a little bit of a questionable report from AP yesterday, I'm sure some people saw, but sounds like he's out of concussion protocol, and he is just dealing with an illness. And then these number of players have been limited. Austin Bryant with a thigh, Christian Jones with a knee, and then Matthew Stafford with a thumb injury. And then on the Bears side of the ball, Khalil Mack hasn't practiced this week with a back injury. So if he can't play, that's a big loss. As well as Akeem Hicks with his hamstring, he's been limited. Charles Leno Jr. with a toe has been limited. And then Jermaine Ifedi has been limited with a leg injury. Let's see. Going into this matchup, starting with the Bears, they had Mitch Trubisky back last week, and that didn't prove to be any type of difference in their offense. They did continue to struggle, but I mean, before the Packers kind of ran away with that game, and they were forced the Bears to be more pass happy. They were kind of getting things going with David Montgomery. Lions are the worst defense against the rush, so there's definitely a great opportunity where if the Bears can figure out to get their running game going, maybe have Mitch Trubisky use his legs to convert first downs and stretch out plays. Maybe there's a way this Bears offense can maybe find some type of consistency against this Lions defense. The Lions defense isn't that great. They got multiple players on IR at this point. Matt Patricia was a defensive-minded head coach. They just fired him. So, what's the play calling going to be like? And I can just see a sloppy, inconsistent effort from that unit on Sunday, which allows for things to get going for the Bears between David Montgomery. Maybe Mitch Trubisky has an okay effort and he gets the ball to Allen Robinson, Mooney, and Miller. Yeah, Anthony Miller. It's one of my favorite players from the draft process. Not really. And then, so anyways, get back on track here. I think the Bears are going to be able to move the ball against this Lions offense, and they're going to be able to find ways to score throughout the afternoon. But because this offense is typically terrible, I think they will probably stall at moments as well. Opposite sides of the ball, I don't know what's going on with this Lions offense. They have all the capabilities to be a pretty good offense, but they are so inconsistent. Matthew Stafford is dealing with that thumb injury. More likely he won't have Kenny Golladay this week. We'll have to see about Swift if the illness is going to force him to miss again. But if he's not in the lineup as well as Golladay, that limits their opportunities. But I mean, if they're going against a Bears offense that doesn't have Khalil Mack, so we'll see if Hakeem Hicks can maybe work his way back in the lineup this week. If both those guys are going, I mean, even if DeAndre Swift's out, that's going to open up rushing lanes for AP and I always forget his name, Kerryon Johnson. Those two players, those two guys could have some rushing lanes open, and then that can open up things for maybe TJ Hawkinson in the passing game. They still got Danny Amendola, Quintus Cephas, Marvin Jones as well. So they still got some weapons to attack this Bears defense. But again, how's this team going to perform after the firing of Matt Patricia? Now, based on what you're hearing from players, a lot of players really weren't big fans of Matt Patricia. So maybe they do come out and ball. Maybe this is one of those games where, they do fire the coach and the interim head coach leads them to a win. which would basically be a nail in the coffin on the Bears season. And does that lead to their head coach maybe getting fired this week? Man, this is a tough one for me to pick because I can definitely see the post-firing of a head coach win for the Lions. But man, it just feels like there's something about the Detroit right now I just cannot trust. I think Chicago is actually going to find a way to win this game. They're at home. I know that really doesn't mean much this year, but they're at home. They have more to fight for at this point. Technically, they are still in the playoff race. I think they squeeze out a divisional game, but I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think they win like a 21-17 type of win for Chicago. And that's probably going to bite me in the butt because every time I pick against these interim head coaches in their first game, they always find a way to win. But let's go ahead and get into this next matchup. This is the final 1 p.m. matchup. We got the Saints traveling to Atlanta to face the Falcons. Let's look at these injury reports. On the Saints side, these number of players haven't practiced this week. Marquez Callaway with a knee injury, Janoris Jenkins with a knee injury, Deontay Harris with a neck injury, Ty Montgomery with a hamstring, Marcus Davenport with a concussion. And these two players have been limited for New Orleans. Alvin Kamara with a foot and Michael Thomas with an ankle. And then Atlanta is pretty banged up. And if these first three players cannot play on Sunday, that's significantly going to hurt their chances of pulling off the upset. Julio Jones hasn't practiced with a hamstring. Todd Gurley hasn't practiced with a knee. Hayden Hurst hasn't practiced with an ankle. So that's three weapons on their offense right there. And then also Kendall Sheffield with an illness and James Carpenter with a groin haven't practiced. These two players have been limited. Calvin Ridley with a foot and ankle. So that's their second best passing weapon on the offense that's banged up. And then Dante Fowler with a hamstring. So a lot of key names on that Falcons team pretty banged up right now. I mean, you could point to the Saints side too with Janoris Jenkins, Davenport, Kamara, and Thomas, but I think the Falcons need as much help as they can. Starting on that offensive side of the ball, I mean, if any of those guys can't go, I mean, it's basically going to be Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley show all day. I mean, I don't really expect much out of the running backs, even if Todd Gurley plays. I mean, me and Rob talk about it every single week, it seems like at this point, on the starts and sits, mainly the sits section on the fantasy voyage. This Falcons defense is great against the rush. They haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher in like 55 or 56 games right now. So it's going to be very dependent on that offensive line protecting Matt Ryan, and then if they can give him time, him be able to find his weapons. Now, obviously, if Julio can gut it out and get on the field, that's going to help their chances. But, man, this Saints defense has been playing so great. I don't see that happening, even if Julio does play. I think Cameron Jordan, Hendrickson, all those guys up front are going to be able to get pressure on him, and that's going to be able to force him into quick decisions, and that's going to cause that offense to stall, and maybe that causes some turnovers as well. But actually, I can't even talk away. I think the Falcons, if Julio, Gurley, Hurst all get ruled out, that offense is going to completely struggle on Sunday. Switching sides of the ball, the Taysom Hill experience, I mean, it's got them wins, but it hasn't been pretty by any means. But again, just 2 weeks ago, Taysom Hill had his first game. He had, I think, over 200 yards passing, a couple touchdowns on the ground, and he should be able to do that against the Atlanta defense again. That Atlanta defense has nothing promising about it right now. I like some of their pieces like Foyside, Aluakon. He's been a good player. Of course, they still got Grady Jarrett, and they got some good safeties on that team, but they still have a lot of work to do in this offseason to make that more of a complete unit. And I think the Saints should be able to move the ball. We'll see if how effective Alvin Kamara can be with his limited action on the foot, but they did get Latavius Murray going last week. I know fantasy football owners are like, please get Alvin Kamara going. I know I'm definitely one of them, so we'll see how that works out. But I don't know. I can't really predict this offense because Sean Payton, he's just going to tweak that offense underneath Taysom Hill based on the matchup. For example, last week, they knew they weren't going to need to throw the ball too much once they knew they weren't facing a real quarterback. So he admitted himself that they basically switched the offense like overnight to more of a run-heavy offense. But I think they're going to be able to move the ball and find the end zone multiple times throughout the day. I think Saints handle their business. Now, typically these two teams play each other tough, but I mean, last time the Saints beat up on them. Maybe it's slightly different because it is in Atlanta this time. But again, if those three guys are missing on offense, I don't think this is a close game. And even if they play, they're less than 100%. So I think Saints handle their business. I'll give them a touchdown win. I won't say they blow them out 10 plus points. They win like a 28-21 type of win on Sunday. Now I'm going to go ahead and start these 4 p.m. matchups that we got going on Sunday. We do have the Giants traveling out to Seattle to face the Seahawks. A little news note on Seattle, Josh Gordon, that's a recognizable name. He has been reinstated. He's going to be eligible to play the last 2 weeks of the season. So it'll be interesting to see what type of shape he's in. But we're going to see a little Josh Gordon, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett trio to finish out the Seattle season. So I'm interested to see how that develops, especially come playoff time. So let's go ahead and look at the injuries, though. The Giants, these two players haven't practiced. Daniel Jones with a hamstring and Cam Brown with an illness. And then these number of players have been limited. Nate Ebner with a knee, David Mayo with a knee, Sterling Shepard with a toe and shoulder, and Darius Slayton with a shoulder and foot. And take a look at the Seahawks injury report. Seems like they're always got a number of players on their report. Brandon Shell hasn't practiced with an ankle. These following players all haven't practiced. Travis Homer with a wrist, thumb, and knee. Trey Flowers with a hamstring. Carlos Dunlap with a foot. Dwayne Brown with a knee. Carlos Hyde with a toe. And then these number of players have been limited. Jordan Simmons with a calf, Kyle Fuller with an ankle, Chris Carson with a foot, and then Damian Lewis with a groin. Starting with Seattle's side of the ball, on the offense, they have kind of been getting back on track over these last 2 weeks. Once they got Carlos Hyde and Chris Carson back into the lineup, we're kind of seeing how important that running back position is to that offense, because when that running back position is flowing, that is opening up things for DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So, and I don't really see that changing much this week. Now, I will say this: Giants defense, they're solid, they're tough, and they play fast. So if Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, if they can eat up the middle of that defense and bottle up the running game, and force them to be more one-dimensional. Now, I don't really think Russell Wilson's that type of quarterback where you make him one-dimensional, it's going to be that effective of slowing them down, because we have seen Russ cook plenty of times before in his career. So it's all going to be about, like, if they can bottle up the run, and then how are they going to defend Russ at that point. James Bradbury is more than capable of sticking on DK Metcalf, so that's a matchup I'm looking forward to watch. So this might be one of those Tyler Lockett 15 catches type of performances. So can they slow down Tyler Lockett if James Bradbury is capable of shutting down DK for most of the game? But I just think Russell Wilson's so effective. He's watching the way he protects the ball, because he heard all the noise about him turning the ball over, and the last couple of weeks he's made a concerted effort of not turning the ball over. So I think he's just going to, run when he needs to. He's going to pick them apart, and he's going to find ways to put the team in scoring position. And as long as they can convert those points, whether it's a field goal or touchdown, I definitely like their chances on Sunday. And I think the biggest detriment, though, for New York is they're going to be missing Daniel Jones. Now, I'm not trying to say Daniel Jones, they're missing Danny Dimes. We have like me and Rob talk about, we're not calling him Danny Dimes until he's lighting it up for his 300 plus yards multiple times. But Daniel Jones has been playing a lot better over this past month, which has led, it's not saying much, but it has led Giants to a 4-7 record on top of the NFC East. But he's more than likely not going to play this week. So you're looking at a Colt McCoy-led offense. I mean, Colt McCoy, I guess he can protect the ball. But again, they are going against that Seattle defense. But I'll say this, the Seattle defense has been playing a lot better over the last couple of weeks. But I mean, Carlos Dunlap is on the injury report. Trey Flowers is on the injury report. So they might be missing a couple pieces. But I think the
Looks like Cody's been interrupted here by a call. Get right back with you. Oh, there he is. There
Yeah.
he is coming back. I was about to throw out a commercial, but it looks like you're back.
I'm back. Nothing's worse than when this do not disturb doesn't work.
Hey, when you're hot, right, and they need to talk to you, man, they just keep ringing. That's how it goes, bud. So stop being so awesome.
That's right. All right, let me. What was I saying here? Oh, Colt McCoy. Yeah, he can be able to protect the ball. I mean, the Seattle's defense has been playing a lot better, as I was saying. I don't know. I like they got the pieces right. Assuming Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard play through their injuries, they still got Evan Ingram, who's been such up and down. One moment he looks like a doofus, fumbling the ball or dropping the ball, and then the next moment he looks like he's a killer from the tight end position. Now, if he can ever be consistent, he can be one of the considered top 5 tight ends in this league. I just want to see that kid be more consistent with his play. But yeah, I mean, they're more than capable. Wayne Gallman's been running the ball a lot lately. So, I mean, if Colt McCoy can just be a game manager, protect the ball, if they can maybe pick up some first downs, maybe they have a shot. But I'm sorry, I'm never going to, pick Colt McCoy on the road against Russell Wilson to pull off the upset. It's just not going to happen. And if it does, I'll eat my crow next week. So I do think Seattle does handle their business. I think they're gonna have their way on offense as well, and I think they should be able to beat this team by. I mean, you never know. Pete Carroll always has the Seahawks winning these weird close games, and that's probably what's going to happen. But realistically, they should be able to beat this team by 10 points. They should be able to win like a 31-20 type of win on Sunday. And then let me just go ahead and get into this next matchup. We got the Rams traveling to Arizona to face the Cardinals. Let's take a look at the injury report. We got Terrell Lewis hasn't practiced with a knee injury for the Rams, as well as Sebastian Joseph Day with a hip, and then Brian Allen with a knee. And then let's take a look at the Arizona side. Jalen Thompson has not practiced with an ankle injury. And then these following players have been limited for Arizona. Justin Pugh with an ankle, Charles Washington with a groin, Zach Allen with an ankle, Jonathan Joseph with an ankle and knee, and Rashard Lawrence with a calf. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this game. So Arizona, their offense, man, is really kind of fallen off over the past month. They're not being that consistent ever since they had that big win a month ago, 4 weeks ago against the Bills. And honestly, if that Hail Mary does not work out for them like it did, the Cardinals will be on a 4-game losing streak right now. So they're sitting at 6-5 right now at the 7th seed. So they need to fight for their playoff spot. I think they're going to have a tough game, though. Jalen Ramsey is more than capable of locking up DeAndre Hopkins. He's done it multiple times, as Rob pointed out yesterday on the Fantasy Voyage, throughout their times in Houston and Jacksonville. So I totally expect that's what LA is probably going to do, is they're going to stick him on Hopkins and dare the other players to beat them. I think Darius Williams is more than capable of locking on Christian Kirk. He's got the speed to run side by side and match his hip. So I think they're going to be able to kind of slow down that offense. And then Aaron Donald is always going to be a beast, and Arizona's offensive line is not that great. So I think he has a chance to tear up that offense. And I'm kind of I'm kind of curious too, if more defensive coordinators are going to take Bill Belichick's plan of what he did against Kyler Murray going forward. I'm not sure if you guys missed it or not. If you go back and watch, it wasn't like every single game, every single play. But what Bill Belichick was doing is, everybody knows Kyler Murray is the shortest quarterback in the NFL. So what they were doing is he was literally having like Chase Winovich and other players stop rushing the quarterback and literally stand where they were and jump up and down and getting in his passing lanes. It's brilliant to me when you think about it. So it's going to be interesting to see if people do that going forward. Just kind of like I guess you could say it's picking on his height by just making sure he just can't see where he wants to throw the ball. And that really threw off his game. But again, if he can get his rushing game going, I know he has a terrible record anytime Kyler Murray finishes around like 20 rushing yards. Like, I think he's only got one game that they have won at that point. So that's where it's going to be key is who can the Rams have spy on Kyler Murray? Micah Kaiser's on IR, and I think that kind of showed up last week for the Rams. So I don't know who they're going to have spy on him, and I think I can kind of see Kyler Murray getting away on some long runs on Sunday, and then he's going to be able to find ways to pick them apart. I think this Arizona offense, they do find ways to score maybe 2 to 3 times on the day, but there's going to be times where they do stall because I do think the Rams defense matches up with them. And you switch sides of the ball. I mean, Jared Goff is just coming off a miserable performance with those turnovers. And I think maybe we did see the loss of Andrew Whitworth show up last Sunday. So we're going to have to see what this Arizona defense, though, can bring. This Arizona defense has been so inconsistent. One week they look pretty solid. Next week they get ran all over. So can Sean McVay maybe get his running game going with his trio of running backs? Maybe that will open up things for Bobby Trees and Cooper Kupp. I really think that, man, the more I actually talk about this game, I really think both defenses are going to struggle. I think the Rams are going to pick them apart through the air and on the ground on Sunday. I think this is going to be a shootout type of matchup on Sunday, the more I think about it. And I think, honestly, this is going to come down to who has the ball last. This is going to come down to maybe who can win the turnover battle. Man, if I was going to trust on who would win the turnover battle, it'd probably be the Cardinals just because, sorry, Rob, but Jared Goff, after last week, he kind of has a tendency of turning that ball over. Man, you're going to be upset with me, Rob. I kind of felt like these two teams would split the series. I do know they play each other twice. This is their first matchup. This one is in Arizona, and I do believe Arizona has actual fans there, even though I don't think it's much. I'm going to go with the Cardinals had the ball last. Kyler Murray gets them in field goal range. They kick the field goal to win like a 31-28 type of win. But you told me the Rams had the ball at the end of the day and they get in field goal range. I think they win. This is one of those coin flip matchups for me. Again, I think the Rams and Cardinals, I felt like this before the season. They're always going to split the series. That's how the NFC West does. They always typically split the series when these teams face off against each other. Except, I feel like I'm poking fun at you, Rob, except when the Rams and Niners play. But most of the time, these teams split the series. So I'm going to give Arizona the slight edge in this one just because they're their home team. So I say the Cardinals get the win on Sunday. So let me go into this next matchup. We got New England traveling out to LA to face the Chargers. As always, the New England report is stupid long with injuries, but all these players have been limited. There's no DMPs this week for New England. Just all these players have been limited in practice. We got Jawan Bentley with a groin, Adam Butler with a shoulder, Brian Cowart with a back, Kyle Duggar with a toe, Nick Folk with a back, Ryan Izzo with a hamstring and hand, J.C. Jackson with a hip, Shaq Mason with a calf, Cam Newton with an abdomen, Matthew Slater with a knee, J.J. Taylor with a quadricep, and Jacob Johnson with a knee. And then on the Chargers side, these three players haven't practiced for LA. Casey Hayward with a groin, Denzel Perryman with a back, Joe Reed with a ribs, Kalen Ballage, and then these guys have been limited. Kalen Ballage with an ankle, Joey Bosa with a shin, Chris Harris Jr. with a foot, and Uchenna Nwosu with a chest. Let's go ahead. LA's offense, obviously with Justin Herbert, I think they're always going to be able to attack any type of defense. They got Austin Eckler back last week. We got to see him make a difference already. I think Rob was on point with that when he said that on the happy hour a couple weeks ago. Austin Eckler's on this team earlier in the season. Maybe they find ways to convert more of those losses into wins. So I think they're going to be able to move the ball, though, against this New England defense. New England's defense has been so up and down. They do struggle to stop the run. So I think we're going to see Austin Eckler going, maybe Joshua Kelly as well. And then I think that's going to open up things for the passing game. But who does Stephon Gilmore stick on? Is he going to lock on to Keenan Allen? If he locks on to Keenan Allen, will that open up things for Mike Williams? But then J.C. Jackson's been playing pretty good ball this year, so maybe those two guys can get locked up. So this might be a Hunter Henry type of matchup. New England really doesn't have linebackers right now. They had Dante Hightower who opted out of the season. So they've struggled. That's why they struggle to stop the run, is because they don't really have any linebackers they can trust. So I think Hunter Henry is going to have a good day. I think they're going to be able to move the ball, but man, Bill Belichick is a great mind. And this is where I'm going to kind of go back to I guess is the word disciple, Brian Flores. We saw what he did to Justin Herbert 2 weeks ago. They ran an amoeba defense, which confused Justin Herbert because he didn't know who was rushing or who was passing. And I think maybe Bill Belichick might take some of that and try to confuse the rookie. So I think there's going to be times where Justin does throw, maybe I could see Herbert throwing a couple of interceptions in this game, just because Bill Belichick will scheme up something and somehow to confuse the rookie quarterback. And I think might be able to make the difference in this game. Because when you reverse sides of the ball, I mean, New England's offense is basically, we're going to run the ball. And if we can get some passes on you, we will. But Cam Newton's banged up with that abdomen injury. Is he going to be playing less than 100%? But they are going against a still overall solid defense in LA. They got Uchenna and Nwosu are banged up, but Casey Hayward too hasn't practiced, and Denzel Perryman. So it's a defense that's overall banged up. But I think they're going to be able to find a ways to be efficient, move the ball on the ground between Cam Newton, Damian Harris, James White. Maybe they even get Sony Michel back involved, and that should hopefully open up things, for Damiere Byrd, Jacoby Myers, and then Cam just picks them apart throughout the day. And I think they're going to be able to find ways to score. I think this game, man, I think both teams are going to find ways to get in the red zone. It's going to be about who can convert those red zones into touchdowns. Man, I feel like this is a coin flip of a matchup, but you know what it's still eating me up in the back of my brain right now. I don't know if anybody saw this. I know the team is 3-8, but their head coach, Anthony Lynn, said, yeah, we don't have a shot at the playoffs. Like, technically you don't, especially in the AFC with how many good records there are. But I don't like when coaches are signaling the white flag. Like, there's always a shot. And until you're mathematically eliminated, like, give that effort in case the chips do fall your way. And that always ate me alive. And that's where I think this matchup's going to come down to, is Bill Belichick is just simply going to outcoach Anthony Lynn. And I mean, Chargers are just going to Chargers. So why would I pick the Chargers at this point, especially when Anthony Lynn already signaled the white flag, and who knows what that means for the effort that his team is going to give going forward. So I do think New England wins. Again, it's a coin flip of a matchup. I do think it's going to come down to who converts more touchdowns than field goals. New England wins I could see this be low scoring. They win like a 17-13 type of win on Sunday. It looks like we got a question. Kevin Luna, who do you think is going to win on Sunday, Washington or Pittsburgh? I think Pittsburgh, because their offense is doing great this season, and their defense from last week's game was amazing. Kevin, I will get to that. By the way, Kevin, I'm not sure if you saw that, but the game it has been pushed back to Monday. I got a couple of Sunday game previews, and then I will get to that Pittsburgh game when I get to the Monday night preview. Let me go ahead and finish off the last 4 p.m. game, though, for you guys. We got the Eagles traveling to Green Bay to face the Packers. Let's start with the Eagles practice report. This is going to be a huge one on their defense. Fletcher Cox hasn't practiced with a neck. Rudy Ford also hasn't practiced with a hamstring. These 3 players have been limited. TJ Edwards with a hamstring, Zach Ertz with an ankle, and Darius Slay with a calf. On the Packers side, they're relatively banged up right now. These 2 players haven't practiced. Mercedes Lewis with a knee, Corey Lindsey with a knee, and then the Chris Barnes. These number of players have been limited. Chris Barnes with a calf, Tyler Ervin with a ribs, Josh Jackson with a concussion, Kevin King with an Achilles, Alan Lazard with a core, Lucas Patrick with a toe, Darnell Savage with a back, J.K. Scott with a quadricep, Equinemius St. Brown with a knee, and Zadarius Smith with a knee. Starting with the Packers offense, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is just playing like classic Aaron Rodgers type of year, and he's just having fun with him and Devontae Adams. It doesn't matter what defense they face; those two are able to connect, and when those two are connecting, that opens up for other players in the passing attack to have a day. And they are going against the Eagles defense. I would say the Eagles defense definitely did play a lot better this past week. But I mean, if Fletcher Cox is going to be missing this game, that is huge. That's going to open up rushing lanes for Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. I think their running backs are going to have a good day against Philadelphia, and that's going to open up things for Aaron to maybe pick them apart deep to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and maybe even Alan Lazard gets things going. They should be able to score this on this Eagles defense anywhere between 2 to 3 times on the day. And then on the opposite side of the ball, it's ugly for Philadelphia. Their offense has nothing promising about it right now. Carson Wentz, he plays too much hero ball. He puts the ball on the ground way too much and gives with his fumbles. So unless he can figure out a way to protect the ball and be more efficient, I don't see anything promising for them. I don't know who's their number one wide receiver right now. It seems like they have like a litter of guys that can't even get the job done at this point. Maybe Zach Ertz gets back in this lineup and it helps out that a passing attack, but it's one of those offenses. Until I see it, I can't believe it. And then let me paint a picture here. I mean, one thing that they could get going is their rushing attack. The Packers do have a bad rushing defense. So if they can get Miles Sanders going and Carson Wentz can just protect the ball and take his shots when he has one, not force it. They could definitely move the ball against this Packers defense. But I will say this Packers defense has played a lot better over these last couple weeks. They're Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith, even Rashawn Gary. They have been getting going over the past couple weeks. So I think they're going to be able to get the pressure on Carson Wentz. He has his 10th or 11th combined different combination of offensive linemen that's protecting him. So I just think they're gonna be sacks on the day, and that leads to when he tries to play too much hero ball, and then he ends up either holding the ball too long, which leads to his fumbles, or he just throws an errant interception, which he has done this year. I still think there's still hope for Carson Wentz to fix his career. It just might not be in Philadelphia, but he's pretty much stuck there though with that contract. That's for some off-season content we can get into at a later time. But yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be able to find ways to move the ball, but I think they end up settling for field goals more than touchdowns, the Eagles offense. So I think that's what it comes down to. Packers score more. It sounds so stupid when I say it, but Packers, they score more touchdowns than the Eagles. I think the Eagles settle for more field goals. Packers get the touchdown conversions whenever they have the ball. That's the thing. This Eagles team is so weird. They're playing so bad. Their record is so bad, but they got the talent where it's like on any given week, if they were to put it together, they could beat you. I just don't see it happening. There's such a mess right now. There's such inconsistency and too much negativity around that team for me to believe in. I think the Packers do find a way to win. They win by a touchdown. I think the Packers can win a 28 to actually, let me go with a 31-24 type of win for Green Bay. And let me get a little coffee swig in here before I get into the Sunday night matchup.
It's hard out here talking all that much, man. You got to let the whistle down a little bit here.
For real, man. Well, especially now this time of year, when basically after this week, every team will be playing, so I don't have those bye. I can just skip through.
Yeah, adding more work to the schedule. Thanks, NFL.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'll give it. I think it was Evan Silva. He was on the Ian Hartit's podcast. I listened to that one last night, and he talked about. He goes, "That's what the final 5 weeks is what kind of separates the analysts, the good analysts from other analysts, is who can handle the full slate of action week in and week out." So I heard that as a challenge. So I'm ready to keep on delivering content for you guys over these final 5 weeks. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get into the Sunday night matchup. We got Denver heading to KC, and they will have a real quarterback. Drew Lock should be back this week, barring. But who knows? After last Saturday, I don't know what's going to happen. People can pop up being tested positive, and who knows? The NFL has been crazy at this point of the year. But yeah, let me go ahead and dive into this. No news on either team for injuries. On the Denver side, Trey Marshall hasn't practiced with a shin. And then these three players have been limited. Philip Lindsay with a knee, Malik Reed with a shin, and Jerry Jeudy with an ankle. On the Chiefs side, Dorian O'Daniel hasn't practiced with an ankle. These three players haven't practiced, but Dorian O'Daniel, as I said, Bashad Breeland with an illness, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire with an illness hasn't practiced this week. Now let's dive in. I mean, we saw what Casey's offense is. I mean, they're literally – they could be unstoppable for a quarter. But it was quite interesting. They did kind of stall against those Bucks last week. And if there was one flaw I could point out outside like the fact that you can run the ball against the KC defense and their defense can be suspect. The one flaw I'm noticing on this Chiefs offense, this whole Chiefs team, which could potentially catch up to them, is if you look back at this Bucks game, if you look back at the Raiders game was kind of back and forth a couple weeks ago, but you go back to like the Panthers game, they have been letting teams, like they jump out to these leads, but they have been letting teams come back in the fourth quarter. Now they have escaped with those wins, like for example against the Bucks and Panthers. But when it comes to playoff time, you can't let a team storm back like that. And because if you let it slip, some team is going to pull off a comeback win against you. So if there's one thing I could point out bad about KC right now, it's that they have been suspect for allowing teams to come back at the end of games and them not putting the foot on the pedal and just totally closing them out. But all right, so let me, after I got off on that rant, I think they should be able to move the ball pretty easy against the Denver defense. Denver defense has just been rattled with injuries throughout the year, so I think they're going to pick them apart on Sunday. It's a home game. I think Tyreek Hill is going to continue his hot streak. Travis Kelce is going to continue his hot streak. The scariest part about that offense is Le'Veon Bell is getting better and better in that offense as we go through the season. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a healthy dose of touches, especially if Edwards-Helaire, if there's any reason he has to miss this game because of the illness. I think we could see a classic Le'Veon type of game, and they're just going to move the ball and score multiple times on the night. Now, the Denver offense, I mean, I guess they get Drew Lock back. They do got Melvin Gordon. We'll see if Philip Lindsay can go. And the case with how to beat the Chiefs is, I mean, the Raiders gave the blueprint. You got to be able to run the ball, protect the ball, control the clock, and then when you're on defense, you just got to be able to take chances and get those sacks and try to get those turnovers. So, I mean, if they can maybe get a healthy dose of Philip Lindsay and Gordon going, and then taking their shots at times off of play action to Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, Tim Patrick, maybe there's an opportunity here. But I mean, Drew Lock has just been so inconsistent with his play. One half he looks great, and the next half he looks terrible. So I just see some inconsistencies out of this offense. So I don't think they're going to get the job done of pulling off the upset. I think the Chiefs handle their business. Maybe it's close because it's a divisional matchup, but I think they should be able to win by a touchdown plus. They win I could see them winning like a 35-24 type of win.
And before you move on, I just want to hammer that home to the people. The Kansas City Chiefs released a tweet this morning. Patrick Mahomes averaged 399.5 yards per game in November, which is the highest mark for any player in a single month in NFL history, plus a 14-1 touchdown to interception mark. What a month for Patrick Mahomes. His Thanksgiving was all month. He feasted.
That's wild. That's crazy. Yeah, it's going to be between him and A-Rod, I think, for the MVP at this point. But we'll see. This is when the MVP award is won. So let me go ahead and get into these Monday night games. As I was talking about with the Kevin question, he was asking who is going to win in this matchup. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into it. We do got Washington against Pittsburgh. This game was moved to Sunday because obviously Pittsburgh had to play this past Wednesday. This game is at 5 p.m. Eastern time, for those that are wondering. As far as a little, I guess this is an injury / news note. Bud Dupree has been placed on IR for Pittsburgh, so he's done with the season with a torn ACL. So his defense is still good, but they're out with Bud Dupree and Devin Bush. Now I want to address this really quick, and nor typically I don't necessarily hate on the Steelers, but they have always been a thorn in my side as a Colts fan. But to all these people that are questioning if Pittsburgh is legit with their undefeated record, yeah, like they haven't played anybody, but you guys do realize like this is a pandemic season. Their schedule has been shifted multiple times. They lost Devin Bush to start the season. Now they lost Bud Dupree. So, like, if they somehow do finish this season undefeated, you can't hold them against it. If anything, that's more of a greater thing that they finished the season undefeated during a pandemic season. So, I'm sure my boy Roy Countryman will have more to say on that. I'm not sure when he's doing the Steel City sermon this week, with it being a Monday night game, but maybe he might be on tomorrow. But that's why you should subscribe to our YouTube channel so you do know when any of our shows do go live.
And what an annoying argument that is anyway. Like, you can only beat who's on the other sideline, guys.
Right.
Like, I hate that argument more than anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's one of the dumbest things you can. You can't pick who you play. That's the schedule. It is what it is. And again, it's a pandemic season. These guys basically haven't had a bye week.
Yeah, and do the Patriots championships not matter because they were the only team playing football in their division for 20 years? Like, come on.
Exactly. But yeah, let me go ahead and go with these injury reports. Again, this is only one day of practice, so if there's a DNP, I wouldn't read into it too much. Check their practice reports today and tomorrow. Let's start with the Steelers since I already talked about them. Steven Nelson hasn't practiced with a knee, and then Jalen Samuels has been limited with a quadriceps. And then on the football team, they're relatively healthy, has been limited with a knee, and Morgan Moses has been limited with a groin. Starting with the Steelers side, their offense, at any moment they can pick you apart. I mean, Big Ben, it's not like he's lighting things up, but he's just being efficient with his targets. He's got plenty of weapons to spread the ball through, whether it's Deontay Johnson, Juju, Chase Claypool. We saw that big throw and catch between him and James Washington, which helped end up sealing that game against Baltimore on Wednesday. And then he's still got Eric Ebron as well. And then, the thing is, I mean, our boy Roy brings it up all the time. They do need to get that rushing game going, figuring out things like that. James Conner is currently on the list. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to be back on time. I don't think he will be able to. But, I mean, Benny Stells is more capable of getting the job done. But they are going against a pretty stout defense. I'm very interested to see how these two teams play each other. Washington, they have such a great defensive front. I enjoy watching them anytime I get my eyes on them. Between Chase Young, my boy Daron Payne, and Montez Sweat is having a heck of a season that nobody's really talking about right now. And they still got Jonathan Allen. Cole Holcomb, I've grown to like over the last couple of weeks from the linebacker position. And then their secondary is just plain tough. So I think this is a very solid one-on-one matchup. I think Big Ben's going to be able to find holes, though, throughout the day and pick them apart. And he's going to be able to find them to put them in scoring position, whether it is for a field goal or a touchdown. Now, you reverse sides of the ball. The football team's offense is kind of, slowly but surely finding themselves as we progress through the season. I mean, Alex Smith, he's still a check down Charlie. He's not necessarily lighting up the world, but they're kind of getting a ground game going with Antonio Gibson. And they use him and, Terry McLaurin's always going to be a threat as a passing attack. How they used Logan Thomas on that Thanksgiving game because he's a former quarterback. So they're giving him like trick plays where he can throw the ball. They're lining him up as a wildcat option where he can, hand it off or run it himself, which I'm sure eventually, that's going to lead to maybe some RPO type of action from him as well. So they're just being creative with the lack of weapons that they have. At some point that does catch up to you. But you have to do that when you're Washington. You have a chance to potentially win the division. They were swept by the Giants, so they need every win that they can get. So they're going to have to fight hard to get this win and hope, especially if Seattle gets that win against the Giants. Washington, I'm sure, is going to come hard to play against Pittsburgh. But even though they're out Bud Dupree and Devin, I mean, they've already made up for the lack of Devin Bush. So I really can't point to that. They lost him at the beginning of the season. But how are they going to make up for the lack of Bud Dupree? Him and TJ Watt, they have formed one of the better pass rush tandems in the league. Man. But Washington's offensive line, I still think they're not that great. So I think TJ Watt, who's playing like a defensive player of the year, he's going to be able to get after Alex Smith. They still got Cameron Hayward. I think Stefan Tuitt's going to be back this week. So I think they're going to get after Alex Smith. They're going to force him to check down the ball, and then they just do their gang tackles. And then we did see Mike Tomlin kind of call out their defensive efforts. So I think they're going to come to play come Monday night. I think the Steelers do handle their business, but I think maybe Washington's defense, slows that offense down at times, and this could be a close game. But I think Pittsburgh just pulls away by the time it gets to the fourth quarter, and they win by like a touchdown. They win like a 27-20 type of win on Sunday. I'm sorry, on Monday. It's so weird having two Monday night games. And then let me go ahead and get into the original Monday night game. We got Buffalo traveling to, well, hold on. Buffalo is facing the Niners, but they are traveling to Arizona. For those that don't know, I think it's Santa Clara County where they play, where their stadium is located. They have declared that no contact sports are allowed in that county for, I think, the next 2 to 3 weeks. So for the next two 49ers home games, they're going to be playing at the Cardinals Stadium. I'm sure Buffalo is ready to get back in that stadium and erase that bad memory of the Hail Mary that they lost, 2 or 3 weeks, or actually 3 to 4 weeks ago. But yeah, let me go ahead and get into the injury report. On the Bills side, Mario Addison hasn't practiced with a knee. And then these two players have been limited. Reggie Gilliam with a hamstring and Tywan Jones with a hamstring. On the 49ers side, this could be a big thing. I'm not sure if this is more of a maintenance issue. Again, this is just one practice. Deebo Samuel hasn't practiced with a hamstring. Kwan Williams with an ankle. And then Emmanuel Mosley has been limited with a hamstring. It's going to be very interesting to see how the 49ers do play. They've been playing a lot better over the last few weeks. They have a chance to get back into the playoff picture on the NFC side. If they get back in the playoff picture, there's a slight potential Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle can return, I think, in the next 2 weeks. So if they can manage to win this big game against the Bills and kind of get on a streak, I wouldn't be surprised if they do push to get their star players back. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a tough matchup, though. Buffalo's defense has been playing a lot better. Okay, I kind of just went all over the place. Let me settle back down. Let's start with the San Francisco offense. Nick Mullins, he's been up and down this year, but they did get Raheem Mostert back last week, and we saw what he could be to that offense. They got Jeff Wilson involved. Deebo Samuel was just a complete monster against the Rams last week, but is he going to be good to go? Is that more of a maintenance issue with his hamstring? If for any reason he can't play, that means they're going to be leaning on Brandon Ayuk heavily. But the thing is, with this Bills defense, I think they've been playing a lot better over the last couple weeks, but can they stop the run? That's where they kind of have struggled, and you're going against probably one of the more efficient running attacks in the league, especially when Kyle Shanahan has his stable of weapons between Jerick McKinnon, Raheem Mostert, and Jeff Wilson. So I think they're going to be able to move the ball. But I think the Bills defense, they have enough where I think they can stall this offense. I think, with Nick Mullins, he's a good story and everything, but he just can't. He's inconsistent with his play, and I think that's going to lead into this matchup as well. And my biggest thing as a whole with this 49ers team is that move I just talked about. So you're talking about these are human beings, and they literally just found out last week that they have to go move away from their families during the time where you want to see your family during the holidays. So they have to stay away from them. How are they handling this move? Are they all settled in? Are they mentally ready for this game? So that's where I'm going to kind of look to see on Monday night is I want to see this energy that they come to play. And, they're playing in the, NFC West rival stadium. So it just gives me bad vibes that I think we're going to see a very inconsistent 49ers offense and defense on Sunday. And if that defense is inconsistent, that's the last thing you want to do against Josh Allen is allow him to be able to find his guys and get on a hot streak against them. And I think he will be able to, especially if Kwan Williams can't play. He was a DNP. That's going to allow Stephon Diggs to open up things, Cole Beasley to get going, Gabriel Davis, maybe a little Dawson Knox, and maybe they can try to get things going on the running game. I think they're going to be able to find the end zone at least 2 to 3 times on Monday night. Like I said, I think this game could be really close. I could see maybe the 49ers pulling off the upset, but I really do, man. I think the human side of this is going to come into play. And I think I don't know, I just feel like that whole moving everything is really going to affect the 49ers on Monday night. And that's going to help the Bills win. I think the Bills, they win like a 31-24 type of win. I do think, though, Kyle Shanahan is a leader of men, so I think he's gonna. I think he could have them ready to play on Monday night, but I think at some point it catches up to him. I'm gonna go ahead and get to this last matchup, though. We do got the Dallas Cowboys. They are traveling out to Baltimore. This is on a Tuesday night that's currently scheduled for 8:05 p.m. Eastern. So you get a little Tuesday night action. I don't have any injury reports to run over because normally we only get 3 sets of injury reports. And obviously they haven't practiced this week, and that will be coming out today. We do get a Dez Bryant revenge game. Again, I really, as a Dez Bryant stan, I really hope he catches his first touchdown as a Raven against the Cowboys. And then this one's kind of hard for me to predict because not only we don't have an injury report, but there's a slight chance. I don't want to even call it a slight chance because I don't know that if he's been symptomatic or asymptomatic. But Lamar Jackson, based on his test and if he showed symptoms or not, technically Lamar Jackson could return for this game. And if he does return to this game, I think the Ravens are just going to run all over the Cowboys. Now, if Baltimore is forced to play, Trace McSorley, he had that one. Come on, everybody's talking about he lit up the Steelers defense, but literally he threw like an in route that Marquise Brown used his speed to take to the house. Trace McSorley did nothing special on that play. So please stop with the Trace McSorley narrative that I've seen some people run with this week. But if it's Trace McSorley or even a banged up RG3, that does give the Cowboys a slight chance to pull it off because they do have the weapons on the offensive side of the ball, but that Ravens defense is still tough. They still got a group of cornerbacks that can slow down that trio of wide receivers. Zeke Elliott just hasn't been the same. And the Cowboys, as much as the Ravens have fallen off over this past month and you can have the lack of trust in them, I can't even trust the Cowboys. We just saw them completely fall apart on Thanksgiving against the football team. So this is like, if I knew Lamar was playing, I'd give the Ravens the right out win. But if Lamar doesn't play, I do think Dallas has a chance to pull off the upset against the Ravens. But I think we're going to see a little Dez Bryant revenge action. I have an itchy feeling we're going to see a Dez Bryant revenge game no matter who plays the quarterback position. So I think the Ravens do find a way to win. I'll say it's close just because I don't know, maybe even Lamar is not 100% Lamar if he does play. They win like a 24-17 type of win on Tuesday night on the line, depending on how Tennessee finishes the season. Again, you could, like you said, Ryan Tannehill. You could even point to Phillip Rivers getting on a hot streak for the Colts. But the first thing that popped in my mind is Kyler Murray. He has really fallen off over the last 3 weeks in his play, dealing with that banged up injury. But they lose to the Rams. All of a sudden, they're 6-6. Minnesota has the Jaguars this week, and Minnesota wins. They're going to start getting into that 7th seed. So You're seeing the Cardinals playoff hopes slip away, and they still they got your Rams again, and I'm sure they got another NFC West matchup. So if there's anybody that needs to play like an MVP, it's him. And then you can point to the other quarterback, your quarterback, Jared Goff. If the Rams don't want to fall apart and see their playoff hopes slip away, they need him to start playing like a baller. So there's a number of quarterbacks that do that. And what's your second question?
Actually, that's going to be good. I think we might have lost connection there in the last 20 seconds, man. I can't get it back. So, just in case, say the goodbyes and plug what you want to plug, but it might not be here. Just to warn you. So, throwing that out there.
I see it moving.
Okay. OBS is giving me issues right now, is all I'm saying. So, just wrap it up real quick.
I just close it out. Yeah, as always, if you guys are still here, if there's been any delay on I don't know what's going on with the OBS and everything. Blitzalytics Prospect Encyclopedia. I've talked about this a million times. There's so much information in this book. Go to blitzalytics.com/shop to order it. It's only $35 for this hard copy. Look how much all that information you get. You can also go to Amazon.com and order it if you're a Prime member. If you only want the PDF, it's only $15. Individual team PDFs are $5. And then, as always, if you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to our Blitzalytics YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 followers sooner than later. It looks like we're at 897 right now. Can we get 3 more subscribers to top 900 by the end of this weekend? That would be great. By the time we return next week, if we got at least 900 plus subscribers on our YouTube channel. And then on top of that, if it looks like my boy Eric is saying video's lagging, but the audio is fine. So that's good for the podcast network, that's perfect transition. If you ever have to miss the video version of this show, you can always find the audio version of our shows on the Blitzalytics Podcast Network. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, you name it, you can find us. Just as another reminder for any of our listeners that listen to all of our shows, there is no football happy hour next week on Tuesday because of the Ravens and Cowboys playing on Tuesday night. But with that being a Tuesday night game, me and Rob have already talked about it. We are going to do the Fantasy Voyage next Thursday. So it's not going to be a Wednesday morning show. It will be a Thursday morning show. And with there being no happy hour, that'll be the next time that you guys see this space on a screen. I hope you guys do enjoy your weekend. Enjoy this football Sunday. We only got 5 of them left. I know technically we got the playoffs, but a true football Sunday with all these games going on. We only got 5 left, so do enjoy it. And I hope you guys have a great weekend.
I do want to say one thing here, since we do have audio, man. It's Stuart Scott Day was the other question I had for you, man. That guy was such a big impact on my life. I just wanted to, remind everybody how fucking awesome Stuart Scott really was, bro. So, happy Stuart Scott Day and the memories that brought back for me.
Yeah, he was always a guy that made me smile anytime I watched SportsCenter. That was when SportsCenter was the real SportsCenter. Ever since then, ESPN has completely fallen off. No slight to if I know anybody in the industry from ESPN, but the company as a whole has fallen off. I mean, you see Dan Le Batard's leaving the company. So I think things are changing in this industry, and that's why you come support us. We're trying to grow this thing. But yeah, I'll see you guys next Thursday on the Fantasy Voyage. Blitz out.
Welcome back to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com.